So it's a great thing to do. And I encourage everybody to go to California to find some of the best brands and products in the world, plus other ones. It's just a great building ground for cannabis. So what's the strategy here? We use this tagline, we say, build the world's strongest cannabis brand. Well, what does strongest mean? Why don't we say largest? Well, large is really about how many packages have your name on it. But strong is actually about what is the brand premium that you can charge a customer. You can put your name on a lot of blueberries, but unless you actually control the supply chain in blueberries, because it's an agricultural product, the margin that you can charge over the next blueberry company is not that much, agricultural commodity. If you want to have a strong brand, you can charge people more. That's where you actually build shareholder value. It's actually where you build company value, brand value. And you do that not necessarily by having 1,000 different products. Some companies are chasing that. But having a few things that people buy over and over and over. Brands take years to build. You have to own a piece of their shelf. And so we're focused on doing that. There are 3 parts to it. The first is you have to win in the largest market. The second is you have to expand to all the additional legal markets, because you can't be Coca-Cola if you're only in one spot. And the third is you actually have to have the right foundation established to execute. That's the team. Teams either go at the front or the back of these presentations. We put ours at the back. So one thing I'm going to encourage is raise your hand and ask some questions. It's not normal to do that, but it actually stops people from sleeping, especially in the afternoon. So you have to win in the largest market. Everybody knows California is the largest market. It's got the population of Canada and an economy stronger than the United Kingdom, which isn't saying much after Brexit, but it was cool when it first happened. But it's also the most competitive market. It has been legal in California for more than 20 years to sell medical cannabis. Most people don't know that. 20 years. That's like my entire lifetime. So why is that important? What it means is there are a lot of really strong regional brands. There's been a lot of product development. You go to a lot of these companies or countries, for example, in Canada, and you know how many edibles Canopy sold yet? 0, right? It's not legal yet. California, you can find microwave popcorn infused with cannabis. Not great, don't get me wrong. But there's been so much development, and that means the customers are actually demanding, and it's demanding customers that lead to really great products. Or, you know, trust me, listen to Michael Porter, he teaches at Harvard, smarter than me, I am. But then why be an edibles company if you want to build the strongest brand? Well, this is why. Brands come from non-commoditized places. When things commoditize, it doesn't matter if your label's on it. People are buying based on price. This makes sense. You walk into a dispensary, you see that there's a flower there. It's a local house flower versus a different flower. Flower is easy to grow. It's easy to understand. It has a THC, CBD, other compounds in it. Hopefully a low amount of pesticides. You check that too. Then you look at the price. Manufactured food actually is where you can differentiate. This is the unit price since legalization of recreational markets in the markets that have been around for years. This is happening in every market. It happens at first. People know this. The price of flower drops. Price of concentrates drop, yes. And the price of edibles goes up, and it will forever. No, it won't. It'll go down a little bit, of course, but it'll be the last to drop. Why? Because the further you get from the plant, the more things you have to do to the product. The more things that you have to do, that's things that can go wrong. And if you get them right as a company, that's where you build the brand with the customer. When other companies get things wrong and you get them right, and they have that consistency, that trust, that love, they buy it again and again and again. That's actually how you develop a brand. That's why we're in edibles. Well, it's one thing to say you have to do that. It's another to actually pull it off. We grew to be the #1 brand in California in just over a year. We took our first round of funding of about $1 million in Q2 of 2017. It was after operating in my parents' garage in Palo Alto for a couple of years, making gum and some other things. We had ideas. We couldn't find funding for the life of us. And we grew very quickly. This is our market share, the red line, and the yellow is the unit sales. This is across the state of California. I think what's most interesting here is that between Q3 of 2017 and Q3 of 2018, the first time that we jumped, and being 1 is great, or 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. We went from basically not being that large to being one of the larger brands. What actually matters is we spent less than $50,000 in marketing. This was through word of mouth and love of the product by the bud tenders who were selling it to people alone. A lot of new people entered the California market in the last couple of years. They're looking for things that they don't have to smoke. They're a different kind of consumer. Public health campaigns have done a really good job training them in this. A lot of people are chasing fast-acting edibles. We think gummies are fast-acting. It's why they're great, but also there's a space for long-lasting at low dose too. That's where we sit. And we found that it resonates. Of course, we're doing marketing now, but at the time we didn't do any. So I mentioned this earlier, we have the number 1 and number 2 best-selling SKUs across all of California. You walk into stores, the things that move on their shelves the most. First is our Uplift, second is Blackberry Lemon, and number 3 doesn't matter because we don't have number 5, so we just leave the rest off the chart, right? We only sell 4 things. All 4 of them are in the top 10. We sell a 5th, it's a seasonal, so it rotates. We have one coming out for Pride. We did one last year for Pride that was exciting. We've been doing a pink lemonade this spring. Those will never make the top 10 because they're seasonals and limited availability. But all the things that we sell really well. And this morning we just announced, these are all gummies, a new product. We're launching mints. For each one of these gummies, there's a corresponding mint. So there's an Uplift gummy, there's an Uplift mint. It has a flavor and cannabis profile that matches. There's a question, yes?
Yes. How much do your mints cost by retail? How many milligrams per mint?
$16 to $20 retail. It's line priced with our gummies, makes it easy. Has 100 milligrams in a tin, 40 mints. So it's 100 milligrams of CBD and THC combo, depending on the line. And so each mint is about 2.5 milligrams of combined. There's 2.5, our sativa is straight 2.5 THC. Our indica is about 2.3 THC and 0.2 CBD. Does that answer your question? Awesome. So it's microdosed, right? We call it finding your just right. You can always have one or more, but we found that people in the center of the markets, there's a side where people just want to exit reality. There's a side where people want to make sure that they're improving their life. They're bringing some balance to it. It goes really well with a long walk. People aren't looking to exit, they're just looking to enhance or go to sleep. Both ways. That's where our products sit. And our mints tie really well into this. We're really excited about them. I actually think they're the best products we've ever made. Don't tell people who like our gummies until they can get them. How do we do that? Grow that quickly? It was by focusing on product. We're what we call a product-first company. We have a manufacturing team. My uncle used to be CEO of a $100 million contract manufacturing plant in Austin, Minnesota. Made Stouffer's mac and cheese, frozen California pizza kitchen, all the stuff in the US makes you healthy. And we put that energy, that spirit into our company. We're a family-run company. My father is our chairman. We started in their garage. He works 80 hours a week. I try not to work that much. And that spirit around a food company is really important because it's like Toyota. Everybody needs to be able to pull the line. The first time you get a customer sick, the entire industry notices and nobody will buy your product. It happened to Chipotle. And only with that type of culture around your company can you create good food products. I actually love Toyota, if anybody's familiar with them and their manufacturing system. When Toyota opened a plant in the United States, they said it's going to take 15 years for them to teach Toyota culture to people in the US. Not because the US is silly, they're stupid. They say that everywhere. And the reason why is plants take time to develop the right culture. We're working on it. We're not there either. We think it will take many years, but you have to start from a good foundation. And many companies who are trying to enter edibles and do agriculture and do retail and do 5 other things at the same time are going to have a difficult time building that sense of culture, stability, food safety, hazard analysis, critical control points, and pest control, and all the other things that go into food manufacturing to get it right. It needs to be part of your DNA. It needs to be that when I walk through the factory, if I happen to not put on gloves, every single person in the factory will say something to me, make sure that I do. That only happens when you have a culture around your company of getting it right, and passion and love for the product. So that's what we do. So we're the top player in edibles. We compete in gummies today. We just launched mints, so that's the red one over there. And we acquired a company in December. It's a baked good company. It's a company called Good Co-op, so we call it a good acquisition because we're clever at Plus. And we intend to bring that product out this summer. We bring products out carefully. We do lots of test and learn. We make about 200,000 products a month right now, and with 10% of that, 20,000, which is the size of mid-sized edible companies right now, we actually test out a bunch of different things, terpene profiles, like inclusions along with the cannabis. Because in cannabis, there are like 20 to 30 different molecules that are along for the ride. In alcohol, there's one. It's alcohol. Wine and tequila have the same molecule. The reason they make you feel differently is the other stuff that's along for the ride. And so we're trying to figure out what that is in cannabis. Nobody knows yet, we believe. But it's the companies who are actually testing and learning constantly, trying to improve their products, who are going to be able to deliver on these promises to the consumer. It's not secret sauce, it's elbow grease, which is a ton of work. But if you do it right, you can actually deliver great products to people. That's just California. We think the best brands and best products are going to come from California, but then you need to take that and replicate it everywhere. That means expanding to additional markets. Everybody knows this. Cannabis is a huge industry. It's going to be giant by whatever projection. What many people don't think through is that to launch edibles, you're going to have to launch a different facility in every single jurisdiction that does the exact same thing. You're going to have to make products in New York and New Jersey, and people are going to buy them in both. And if they don't taste and work the exact same, customers aren't going to come back to your brand. It doesn't make sense if you like Coke in New Jersey that you wouldn't like it in New York. That doesn't work. If you do that to your brand, you will kill it. That means you have to control the manufacturing. That's very difficult. So how do you do that? What we've done is actually taken the machinery that we use, which we've had to make modifications to, by the way. Food manufacturing machinery was never made to do dosing correctly. Dosing is pharmaceutical. Food manufacturing is made to make lots of units that are consistent. If an Oreo cream depositor that's dropping cream onto the Oreo varies 10 to 15% throughout the entire day, it doesn't matter. It's an Oreo. It's delicious, right? Not good for you. But if it happens in cannabis and you're putting the cannabis in the Oreo cream filling, that can be the difference between getting stuck in your couch, not being able to move, and not feeling anything. So you have to adjust the machinery, right? And in every part of the manufacturing process, you have to get it right. We test our products 5 times internally through the manufacturing process at different stages, which means that we know when things go wrong, why they're going wrong. There's extra sugar, they put a little bit of extra water, we kept the pressure on for too long, the heat was over there for 10 minutes longer. We know as it happens, and we have all this data around it that makes sure that when we deploy in New Jersey and New York and Michigan using the same equipment, we have data to help us out. One thing that many people don't know about food manufacturing, it is very different to do food manufacturing at sea level as at altitude. So you're going to have different data and different things going on in Denver, even if you use the exact same equipment, exact same process, exact same everything else. If you're not just focused on this problem and you're trying to do 10 other things at the same time, it's going to be very difficult. So how do you do that? You partner with people, you create what we call quick deployable production facilities. It's a manual line with some automated equipment. We automate all the things to do with the production and manual for everything else. We launch those in all the other jurisdictions, get our brand out there quickly with what we know from California is a better product. That's how we go everywhere. Questions about that? Awesome, let's keep going. The top brands in edibles, we believe are going to have 30 to 40% market share. The second tier, second company is probably going to have around 20%. Why? Because when you look at other CPG industries, it's the same. Why would this one be any different? There's going to be a Ford, there's going to be a Coke and a Pepsi. There's going to be a Colgate and a Crest. It should be the same. Expect around 40% margins long run. Right now, everybody's having to compete with the black market, so it's not clear where all the numbers are coming from, when the revenue is going to hit, when certain things are happening. This will unpack. What is clear is that it is a giant market, and the companies who win are going to be very successful. We're seeking to achieve that level of ownership, because once you reach that 40% mark, it's very difficult to displace you. We're at 32 in gummies. Not quite there, but we're working on it. This is where marketing comes in. But CBD is exciting too. One of those products, one of those top 10 products is a CBD-only product. It's the top-selling CBD-only product in cannabis channels in California. We actually just discontinued it, which is crazy. Who discontinues a top 10 product? We do, because we're a little bit crazy. But we replaced it with one that has a little bit of THC. We actually found from customer feedback that when it came to relieving pain, a little bit of THC helped. And anybody who wants to relieve pain will tell you 2 things. Number 1, they do not want to get high, they just want to get rid of their pain. 2, I don't care if I get high, get rid of my pain. It works. With the hemp CBD product, we can take our product that we know is successful itself and actually move it everywhere else in the country when legal. We're part of the National Cannabis Roundtable. Our chief risk officer is a member of that, and the executive committee. We have no right to be there. We're a lot smaller than other companies. Why are we there? Because reputationally, we're the people who understand science. We're the people who understand food. We're trying to make a company that my grandmother could be proud of. It's my dad's mom. She's great at cookies. And we're going to be able to take this product all over the country when we're able to do so, when other companies are able to do so. A lot of companies stand up. We're having talks with Walmart. We're having talks with Target. We're having this thing with CVS and Walgreens and what have you, and Whole Foods and all. Yes, they're all talking to everybody. It's great. Of course, being in the leading position, we're in those conversations as well. But what really matters is not, are you going to be able to sign the deal first? It's who's going to get their brand to a position where they're available in all of them. Because because you can't just be in one spot. And these companies aren't just going to choose one partner. Target can't just choose one company. They're going to need to choose 7. The brand risk is too high to them. That's where this type of product comes in. We know it sells really well. We know it works well. It's already been moving very well. We launched the mango CBD relief, discontinued our pineapple coconut. That's one to launch nationally. One thing we found out when we talked to them, this is interesting, they don't want the brand to be the same. They want a different name. Okay with the product, okay with the form factor, okay with everything else. Can look the same, but you can't have the same name at the dispensary and at our store. It makes us feel uncomfortable. That makes sense. You have to have the right team to actually execute. There's a slide that I'm not supposed to spend much time on. People get upset. I'll say we have a lot of Ivy League degrees. We actually have a Canadian as well. That's really useful. I'll zero in on one person this time. If you want to be a CPG company, you have to have me lead. No, you have to have a guy named Sandy Posa, or a guy like Sandy Posa on your board. Sandy Posa launched the Gillette Fusion Razor in the 90s. He launched Gatorade in the 80s. He used to run General Mills cereal division. He's a VP at Procter & Gamble. He sits on the board of Purdue Farms. He's the guy who's taught us about SKU velocity, SKU concentration, customer repeat purchases, the things that you need to track. Of our revenue in December, according to Headset, which is one of the best analytics companies in the industry, 70% of our retail sales were from people who had bought our product before. 50% had bought it at least twice before. That's a lot of people who like it and are coming back and buying it. If you don't have a repeat purchase product, you're going to be in trouble because customer acquisition costs are too high to actually have your product fall off with a one-time purchase, unless you're selling it for $300, which some people are in cannabis, so good for them. Yes, the management team is key. We have amazing people. But it's a next level of management that actually defines whether you are an operating company or whether you're a company with just a great management team at the top. We have the former EVP of operations at Lagunitas Brewing. He built 3 plants in 3 years for them. We're trying to build more. We're trying to build about 1 a quarter from now until the end of next year. That's an insane thing to do. Nobody's ever done it in food manufacturing before. We're going to at least try it. And by the way, so is every multi-state operator and everybody else trying to do the same thing. We're focusing just on food. Gives us an advantage. We're the former operations manager at Gruma, one of the largest manufacturing plants or companies in the world. They make Mission tortilla chips for people who like tortillas, a whole bunch of tortilla products. We have a former chocolatier from Cho Chocolate. I have a co-founder who is a Michelin star sous chef at 2 restaurants. I have a former Pepsi food scientist that actually worked at Good, the company that we acquired, and he works in our product development team. They're amazing. And we have a Harvard chemist who tests every batch 5 times. He's actually gone out and had to train some of the labs on how to do their work. We have about 50 million shares out, including some, we did a convertible debt round, and I assume they convert, and we're at 50 million. We have share unlock coming up in about a week for about 20 million of these shares. So it's good to know if people are looking to get a position. We've only had 6 million floating, which means if you tried to buy a share, you drive up the price. Generally, people don't like that. And that's our company. These are the 3 parts to building the world's strongest cannabis brand. So I'll stop there and ask some questions. Open it up to questions.
Expanding your brand into beverages.
Hi. Expanding your brand into beverages would seem to be a natural evolution for you folks. Any comment?
Yeah. How do you feel about it? Why ask the question? Do you like beverages?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do I. They're great in alcohol, right? They exist in cannabis. They have for a while in California. This is popcorn. Of course, they're beverages. They don't sell very well. One of the reasons why is on-premise consumption doesn't exist yet. When on-premise consumption exists, there will be a lot of beverages. I'll bet there would be cannabis bars, right? Until that happens, actually, in California, it doesn't look like it's going to be a very large market.
Are you ready?
If for those products to launch?
When it happens. It will happen.
We do, the products will exist. As a product category, we're watching it. I think that it would be silly to look, there's a phrase, it's like if you're going up a hill and you look in the rearview mirror, everything looks flat behind you, right? It'd be silly to assume that because beverages are what's successful in alcohol, that they're absolutely what people are going to use in cannabis. Because in alcohol, you can't actually powderize it and put it into foods. Well, you can, but it's very expensive, and it's illegal in some places. But in cannabis, why would beverages be the natural inclusion? If you put beta-cyclodextrin in a beverage, you can speed up the activation, you can encapsulate it, but at that point you're competing with a vape, which is always going to be faster and better at that. So we look at beverages, I like them. It's not where we're taking our brand right now.
Are you in MedMen?
Yeah, the question was, are we in MedMen? We are not in MedMen today. We were MedMen's top seller until June of last year. We went public soon thereafter, and we are not on their shelves. But they have great customers that expect us to be on there at some point. We grew to the #1 brand in cannabis without being on their shelves. So that tells you something about the California market. It's huge.
Hi, I saw the plans for you to recreate what you do in California and other states. Are you operational in any, actually selling products?
We are not operational in any other states. One thing that will be a little bit different about us is we've noticed that other companies like to have a long period in between when their LOI or a non-binding LOI is signed and there's an announcement and then they're in market. We're not going to give our competitors too much of a head start. It's going to be about 5 weeks from the announcement to us actually being on shelves. The first market we've looked at is Nevada.
One more question. Are the people who test your products like high 24/7?
No, actually, there are a lot of people in our company, surprisingly enough, who are food people who are afraid of cannabis. So we have to force them to do it. We have some people who do use a lot of cannabis and some people who are somewhere in the middle. We've actually found that that group of people who are a little bit afraid of cannabis are the best people for edibles because everybody's a little bit afraid. When you walk into a dispensary, I don't care, I've been in this industry for a while, it feels weird, right? And so having something that feels safe and approachable and repeatable, if we can reach those people, if I can convince my mother to try one, which I can only do like once a year, it's really hard, then we've done it correctly.
Okay, Jake, that was awesome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
And he'll be available outside. And I can